Mammoth versus Mastodon. The difference. Nobody explains. Most people think these two animals are the same thing. They're not even close. One was a grazer built for open grassland. The other was a forest-dwelling browser that never saw a step in its life. They lived at the same time, sometimes in the same regions, and almost nobody can tell you the actual difference. By the end of this video, you will. The common confusion. If I asked you right now what separates a mammoth from a mastodon, you'd probably say size or the tusks look different. Maybe you'd guess one's older than the other. All reasonable guesses, all wrong or at best, incomplete. Here's the strange part. Mammoths and mastodons aren't even closely related on the family tree. People assume they're like cousins. Maybe one species, two regional variants. They actually split apart from a common ancestor around 25 million years ago. To put that in perspective, that's further apart than humans and orangutans. So if they're that distantly related, why do we keep mixing them up? What they actually were. Let's start with the mammoth because it's the one most people picture first. Mammoths belong to the same family as modern elephants, Elephantidae. The woolly mammoth, specifically, was built for one environment, the mammoth steppe. This was a cold, dry grassland that stretched from Spain to Canada during the Ice Age. Think less snowy forest and more frozen prairie. That's why mammoths had the features they did. The hump on their back wasn't fat for warmth like people assume. It was actually a reserve of energy, similar to a camel's hump. Their tusks curved dramatically, sometimes crossing at the tips, which scientists believe was used for sweeping snow off grass to graze. Now, the mastodon. Completely different animal, completely different world. Mastodons belong to a separate, older family, Mammothidae, and they were forest specialists. While mammoths grazed on grass, mastodons browsed on trees, leaves, twigs, pine cones, shrubs. Their molars even prove it. Mammoth teeth are flat and ridged, perfect for grinding tough grass. Mastodon teeth have sharp cone-shaped bumps, built for shredding woody plants, not grass. That single difference in teeth tells you almost everything. Mammoths were the open plains grazers. Mastodons were the forest browsers. Same ice age, completely different lifestyle. The size, shape, and the tusk myth. Here's something that surprises most people. Mastodons were actually shorter than mammoths, but heavier and stockier, built low to the ground like a tank. Not tall like a giraffe. A woolly mammoth stood around 3 meters at the shoulder. That's roughly the height of a basketball hoop. A mastodon was shorter, closer to 2.5 meters, but with a more barrel-shaped muscular body built for pushing through dense forest. And the tusks, this is the detail nobody explains properly. Mammoth tusks curve dramatically inward, almost spiraling. Mastodon tusks are straighter, longer relative to body size, and point more forward than upward. Why the difference? Mammoth tusks were tools for digging through snow and ice to reach grass underneath. Mastodon tusks were more likely used for stripping bark and breaking branches in dense woodland, and possibly for combat between males, the same way modern elephants use theirs. Did they ever meet? Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Because for a while, these two animals actually lived side by side. In parts of North America, mammoth and mastodon ranges overlapped, particularly in regions where grassland met forest. They weren't competing directly for food because of that diet difference we just covered. Mammoth stuck to open ground and grass. Mastodon stayed closer to trees and shrubs. It's a textbook example of what scientists call niche partitioning. Two large animals sharing a landscape by simply not competing for the same resources. Both species also lived alongside early humans. There's archaeological evidence of both being hunted. Spear points have been found embedded in mastodon ribs in North America, and mammoth bones have been found at human campsites across Europe and Asia, sometimes even used to build shelters. Why they went extinct, and the difference that mattered. Both animals disappeared around the same general window, roughly 10,000 to 11,000 years ago, but the causes weren't identical. And that's the last piece nobody explains clearly. Mammoths were hit hardest by climate change. As the Ice Age ended and the planet warmed, the open steppe grassland they depended on shrank dramatically, replaced by forests and wetlands. Their food source was literally disappearing out from under them. Add in human hunting pressure, and small, isolated mammoth populations couldn't recover. The very last mammoths, a small population on Wrangel Island in the Arctic, survived until around 4,000 years ago, which means mammoths were still alive when the Great Pyramid of Giza was already standing. Mastodons faced a different pressure. As forests changed and shrank in North America, combined with sustained hunting from early human populations who specifically targeted them as a major food source, mastodon populations collapsed faster and more completely. By around 10,500 years ago, they were gone. So even in extinction, different habitats, different diets, different pressures, different timelines, right to the very end, these were never the same animal. Let's put it all together in one clean breakdown. Mammoths, closely related to modern elephants, grassland grazers, flat-ridged teeth, curved spiraling tusks, taller, and the last ones died out around 4,000 years ago. Mastodons, a separate, older family entirely, forest browsers, cone-shaped teeth, straighter tusks, shorter but stockier, and they disappeared earlier. Around 10,500 years ago, two giants, same ice age, almost nothing else in common. If you actually made it this far, you now know something most people never bother to learn properly. That's exactly what this channel is built around, taking the prehistoric world and actually investigating it, instead of just throwing facts at you. If you want the next one, the next era, the next extinction, the next animal nobody explains properly, that's what subscribing does. I've got Megalodon versus the blue whale coming up next, and it's an even bigger gap than people think. Hit subscribe if you're in. I'll see you in the next one.